All right. Let's see. Come on. Appear before me. I just went live. I know I did. Come on. I believe you, YouTube. Why is it not? Usually on YouTube, there's like a link that shows that I can just like put into the Discord pretty easily. It's not appearing. Like the video is not appearing in my live feed. Let me just go to my channel, see if I can find it there. Okay, yeah, here it is. Okay, just copy link. Live again. Okay. Yeah. Late night. It's late night for me. It's 1 a.m. Okay, run 18. 18. I'm tracking. I'm not sure if I'm counting right. I'll have to go back to the old file and like double check, but I'm pretty sure it's about 18. I never sleep. Okay. This shouldn't... I'm trying to think, do I go for the fast strategies, or do for once I try to take it slow and just like completely thoroughly beat this? Not like... Because I feel like I'm split on what's killing the runs beyond just skill. Because obviously skill is a major element in all this. I'm not going to pretend it's not. I'm not going to pretend I'm the best player. I know I'm not. What I'm more concerned with is there like a technique or method I'm kind of missing? I also want to make sure it's not a black screen. Okay, it's not. Good. I mean, it's going to be a black screen for a second while I toggle in and out of the game, but that's guaranteed. That just happens inherently with a game. I think impatience has been a flaw of mine. I think if I ever find a blaze spawner, I just need to lock in that room and just farm it no matter how long it takes. I think I've been trying to speed up that process too much. I think that's been kind of wasting my time. I think there's also just been a bunch of bad luck, but that there's nothing I can do about bad luck. Other than try again until I break through it. And to be clear, and I've said this in prior streams, the kind of the beyond just the fact that I've always wanted to do this, the fact that Hytale's releasing so soon, come on, is part of what spurred me on to want to beat this. I don't care when exactly in the night or day I will. I'm trying to do it on stream though. I would feel bad if I like was practicing off stream and then I accidentally beat it. I've always wanted to have it like on record, you know. Okay. I've always wanted to have the full like journey and little adventure recorded. Yeah, hi everyone who's making it. I don't expect a lot of people to be here. We had a lot of people on the first stream that really... I mean, on one hand, I was really excited about that. On the other hand, I was really confused. I was really like, what? 50 viewers on a like a 1 a.m. Minecraft live stream. Are you guys okay? But like 6 viewers which looks like we're floating around about right now. That's about what I expected. Okay. Now that the world's loaded in a bit more, so one quirk of Distant Horizons is it doesn't load everything in right away, and I think it causes a little bit more lag than most, like, it's not really a high resource intensive mod pack in my opinion, or mod. And I'd argue the results are completely worth it. But I have noticed that like I get lag results that I don't if I just play either vanilla or the base performance mods. I tried to increase the RAM allocation a little bit, just in case that was causing any problems. I'll also look into other stuff I can try and do. In case I do beat it and before Hytale comes out, I guess I could just stop streaming Minecraft and just switch to streaming something else. But that's been on my mind is like exactly what do I do to replace Minecraft. One thing I've been thinking about doing, and oh well, there's our lava pool. That's good. That saves time, sort of. In fact, I could probably just use this little bear patch here for my resources, and or kind of like a little base of operations in the meantime. It's got kind of everything I need. 193, 64, negative 302 lava. I'll come back here when I'm a bit more confident in food collection. What was that noise? The other thing I think about with Minecraft that I might do in the case that I beat hardcore, like tonight, let's say, like a replacement kind of thing to play while we're waiting for Hytale, or at least I'm waiting for Hytale. Is I've been really interested in the concept of Golden Age Minecraft stuff, which was basically the premise is that around version 1.73 of the beta, not 1.73 of release, like what most people might play through, but of specifically the beta iteration of Minecraft. They introduce, a little after 1.7.3, they introduce in 1.8 the hunger and kind of adventure system of Minecraft as we know it. So like me collecting food right now, I wouldn't have to do that in beta. That was an addition that came later in 1.8. It is also where the modern terrain generation also largely comes from beta 1.8. They improved it over time. It's still better now than it was when 1.8 initially came out. But that's just random terracotta, huh? Oh, there's mangrove there, so that means there's a lush cave underneath. Wonder if that's worth digging down for. But anyway, so there's a lot of interesting thoughts on 1.7.3 because it's kind of the cutoff point between Minecraft as we kind of know it now and Minecraft as it was in the what many consider like the good old days, like the nostalgic era of Minecraft. That's where you have like it's kind of like the last time you see like the lime green grass, for example. is around that era, and there's other like interesting kind of infamous visual quirks and cues of old Minecraft that kind of fade away after that. Can I even cook one piece of chicken with this? Okay, it's about exactly one. But I've been kind of fascinated by the like the very passionate fan base that still lives around that era. Like people still play beta 1.73 out of like all iterations of Minecraft. Like I would say the next major iteration I feel like that shifts the kind of trajectory of Minecraft is 1.7.10 of the full release. I think that's like where I would place maybe the next cutoff, but I would have to do a bit more research on it. I just thought the topic was interesting, and I haven't played really old Minecraft in ages since then. Like it's something I personally haven't gone back to, which is kind of why I'm curious about it. And there's still like there's not only does all the old content that was made for it back then still exist, but I feel like people still kind of update and work on it and try to like restore. I think the phrasing I've always seen with it is the idea of like the alternate timeline, like the what if Minecraft kept going with its old kind of direction and aesthetic and feel. Think like early Aether and stuff like that, where it's like the era that born that type of mod and vibe and like come on. I don't know why I couldn't salmon. It's a kind of interesting thought to consider that era. And I've been really curious like about playing old Aether and all that, and old Nether content and all that. That said, I don't even think the end was a thing yet at this point in time. I wonder when the end was added to Minecraft. I would have to check that. 30, that's... when combined with my other food, that's probably enough. Finish up the salmon here, though. I feel like salmon might be one of the best food sources added to the game. I don't see anything else particularly interesting. Now, let me run back to where the lava pool was, because I plan on making that, like I said, kind of a base of operations. But I'll get there when I get there. I'm worried about beating modern Minecraft hardcore right now. I would say the other thing this is completely shifting topics, but something that's been on my mind lately, particularly where was 190? Okay, this way, yeah. Or this way? Oh, actually, this is a better cave than what I found, so. particularly lately when I was writing the bonus video for Absolute 87, right? This is like a kind of small follow-up, help me reiterate some of my thoughts I didn't convey super well in the main video. Something that's been interesting to like check back was a lot of people were complaining about the saying Withered Foxy did the bite of 87 because the week before said so. Just to get the thought out of the way, it doesn't really say that. This is a running problem I've noticed, particularly in the book section of like FNAF theorizing, is a book will say something, and it's possible to connect or interpret it one way. However, it's not definitive. In the case of this, when saying Withered Foxy did the bite of 87, what it really says is Ralph has this internal thought of everything about Foxy seems like it screams not safe for kids. Ironically, though, he's never bitten any kids, with kids in italics, implying he has bit adults before. And that's the whole line. That's the entire line people say confirms he did the bite of 87. I don't know why. I don't know why I did that. I just had a very dumb brain fart there. Nothing else in the book implies he did really, to my memory. Maybe there's one other line I'm just, like, missing or forgetting. But as far as I recall, and as far as I could tell, like, when I was kind of control-Fing through the book to double-check for any other references, none of the times the bite of 87 is referenced say he did the bite of 87. Or mention at all what animatronic did the bite of 87. Or really how it went down, other than, like, one kind of brief line. And even then, it's kind of hard to tell what it really is saying, because the line says, if only the victim of the bite of 87 could still talk, they could tell you what they did to provoke the attack. Which could imply, from Ralph's point of view, they were, like, sort of self-responsible. They did something that caused the attack to happen. But at the same time, the line could also read that they don't know what happened. Yeah, I was talking about the bite of 87 because it was a hot topic in the comments of the prior video. Insisting the week before said that Withered Fox did it. But as I was saying, it's like, it's not as cut and dry as it says he did it. Like I said, it doesn't say at all, it doesn't even say that he bit someone on the head. It just says that he has bitten adults before, or at least implies it. And that's not very helpful because the rest of the book has animatronics biting people all the time. Like, Ralph gets bit by the cupcake at least, like, 2 or 3 different times, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe they're variations of the same sequence, but, like, when I was looking through it all, it's like, there are other times where he gets bit by characters. There's one time where, it seems like the cupcake's been destroyed, Chica's cornered him, I think in the kitchen, and he tries to escape through the vent, I think, or there's something in the vent. And it bites him, I'm pretty sure. I would have to double check how it's phrased exactly. But he just remembers seeing glowing eyes before he's bitten. So, like, the idea of an animatronic biting him is, like, a running thing in the book. It's not just, like, a one and done. And then there's also the Bite of 83 scene where he listens to the 1983 phone call replay that replays the audio from the bite, and that causes him to get bit in the real world by Golden Freddy. So, like I said, there seems to be, like, this implied... It's implied in the book that it's like animatronics biting people itself is not special. The bite of 87 is specifically like what's special about it, or at least my takeaway, is that it was an incident where the animatronics went completely off their stage and bit someone on the head. Those are the 2 criteria we need. The third kind of implied criteria is that the toy animatronics after FNAF 2 are scrapped for some reason, which, well, not definitive, implies they had something to do with the bite of 87. So, like, we need the toy animatronics to be blamed somehow. There's no reason to get them scrapped unless they did something that was worth, you know, scrapping over. They had to do something bad or blamable, or that would cause the company to be like, we can't have these anymore. And they specifically return the old animatronics to service after the bite, or after whatever happens in the second location that causes the toy animatronics to be scrapped. So if Withered Foxy did the bite, why would they reuse the old animatronics? That would, if anything, that would get the original animatronics banned forever, like completely decommissioned and shut down, never to be touched or trusted again. But something scared them about the new animatronics specifically. At least that's what the FNAF 2 itself implies about the event. And since that's the game set in 1987, I would prefer its take on like the lore and story over almost anything. So that's why I didn't go with that, because it's like the book has other bites. It doesn't say he bit someone on the head. It doesn't say it's the bite of 87 that he did. Just that Withered Foxy has bit people before. Basically, is all that line really says. And that's not useless lore. It's just not the lore people are claiming it is. I'm trying to figure out what I do here. I think I'll let each of these burn out and move them downwards. Okay, that'll do. But I'll mention that in the upcoming video. But that was just like a thought on my particular mind that like it's never so simple, you know. The same thing, and this is part of why I was starting this conversation about, is the same thing has happened with Drowning, and it's still like people still say that Drowning confirmed the princess's castity. And I would say Drowning doesn't even imply that. Like, you would have to go out of your way to misinterpret the story to conclude that. But I think that's what people wanted. I don't think people wanted to interpret it the right way. I think they wanted to prove their theory. But that's a whole other like tangent, I guess. But I guess I'll elaborate on that, because why not? What else am I doing? Drowning has like the running plot line of there's a girl, she's trapped in a VR experience at Fazbear Entertainment. It's kind of like a booth you shove yourself in, and it kind of puts you into the world of VR for a bit. Sort of like almost like a coin-op ride version of Sword Art Online, let's say. But anyway, and she's trapped in I think at first it's a VR water park or something like that. I'm trying to remember what the initial thing she's stuck in is. But over the course of the story, she encounters all kinds of weird things. And she's constantly running from this girl who looks like she's been drowned in well, it just looks like she's been drowned, and she has like weird green kind of veins and all kinds of weird crap. And she's kind of the main monster threat of the story, the drowning girl. And at one random point, I don't remember. I know the names are Peggy and Kara. I don't remember which one's which, though. I don't remember which one's Peggy. I don't know which one's Kara. But the point is, the main character had a friend when she was younger, who I don't think they say exactly what happened, but she basically saw and kind of, maybe not intentionally, but she she could have done more to help her friend, and she basically died, and her friend died basically because of that, because she wasn't active enough in trying to help. Um, Peggy's protagonist, so Kara's the friend she had died. Like I said, I don't remember which one's which. I just remember that, and I'm going off of memory here, so I'm not going to be super helpful at describing things. But the implication, at least what I understood of the story, is that the drowning girl was in some way tied to Peggy's own trauma of letting her friend Kara die. Now I don't know if this was like literally Kara coming back to haunt the machine, or if this was like an agony thing where her own agony and guilt causes the VR to make a threat to hunt her down. But that was, I don't even think that's a crazy reading of the story. I'm pretty sure that's the intent. But people were insisting that because of one random line where Peggy said she's internally thinking when she's trapped in the VR simulation running around, like, how does she get out? She's trying to figure out, like, what she can do to leave the simulation forcefully before the time is up. Because she basically paid the guy extra who runs the booth extra to give her a shitload of time. And now that she's in danger, she's like, well, it's going to basically be forever before my time runs out. And I'm taken out forcefully, so I have to find my own way out of the game, right? This is what she's struggling with. And so she's trying to think, like, what are things in video games that can get you out of like, what's the end goal? And she's, like, muttering, like, find the treasure, clear the maze, save the princess. What do you do? And people saw the line, save the princess, when the book was, like, leaked, because every single FNAF book is leaked these days. And we're like, huh, princess? Save the princess? It must be she must be playing Save the Princess. It's related to Princess Quest. But it's not even a game she's played. She's talking about objectives in video games in a broad term. It has nothing to do with Princess Quest. She's just, like, muttering end conditions that help you win video games. But people completely went off the rails with that line to say that Drowning Girl was Cassidy because Drowning Girl has black hair, and therefore, Drowning Girl, like, the drowning story is about Cassidy being the princess. It's completely unrelated and incoherent. Because it's not what the story's really about. It's not clear why Cassidy would even be picking on this random girl. Especially since she's not in Princess Quest. Like, if that was the idea, if the premise was that Cassidy was, like, going rogue in the Pizzaplex attacking people, I don't get why you would do that if the idea is the princess is the one trying to stop this glitch trap. Because that's what we're shown in you know, Security Breach. So, like, the connection there doesn't make a lot of sense. And I like I said, I think people were just reaching to try and prove that theory any way they could. And this might be a bit more controversial, but I feel like this also happened with Return to the Pit. And I explained this briefly in a video, but I think a lot of people just tuned it out because they didn't want to hear it, basically. A lot of people were saying that book proved the Cassidy was the one receiving the cake at the end of Happiest Day. And this is neither here nor there on that exact topic. But specifically, I don't like the argument used to, like, to claim that. So, the rationale they had was that there's a sequence where Oswald is interacting with kind of pixelated ghost kids for a while. And he's playing, but then promptly trapped in a kind of magic arcade machine for a stretch, right? That's the sequence. That's the setting here. And towards the end of it, when he's giving kids to the cake to the kids, and this will eventually free them or do something magical that saves people, right? And he says, so he's like, cake, 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 and then we're done. And we're shown an image of 3 kids in one page, and the next page we're told the description of the final kid to get cake is a girl with curly hair. That's the only description given. And people are saying, that's Cassidy. Cassidy, the name, means curly hair, therefore it's Cassidy getting the cake last. However, this kind of contradicts any possible interpretation up to the story of this point. So, a lot of people say that Scott was trying to prove to us that Cassidy was the one who had the cake in the logbook with the page "Reflect on your happiest day," and then there's a image, like a picture of the puppet handing cake to a girl with short black pigtails. And I'll get to how this interacts with 2 plus 4 theory, because it does kind of, but I'll get to that in a bit. And people are saying that was proof that Cassidy, the theory is that Cassidy is that girl getting cake, and therefore it proves Cassidy was the one to receive the cake at the end of Happiest Day. However, that girl in that picture very clearly does not have curly hair. It's short black hair tied into 2 pigtails. Which is pretty weird, because in the Return to the Pit sequence, that sprite I mentioned earlier of the 3 kids has one, presumably girl. I don't know many boys who tie their hair into pigtails. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, it's just that it's not as common. But I think it's meant to be a girl. Who has short pigtails. Now, they're not black, but they are short pigtails. And that would imply, since it says the girl with curly hair, and that girl isn't drawn with curly hair, the one with the short pigtails, that it would have, like, there's only 2 girls in the missing kid group. At least if the end gravestones are meant to be believed. So that creates this paradox of, like, wait, how can Cassie be the girl be receiving the final slice of cake when supposedly the proof for that up to this point, beyond just Golden Freddy kid gets Golden Freddy mask, was that she was the girl getting the cake in the logbook. She can't have short black pigtails and short hair and have curly hair. And we can't have a girl with short pigtails and a girl with curly hair and have her be both. Like that, in the same book. She has to be one or the other. I mean, I guess some kids can have curly hair, but it's like, it's not the image portrayed. It's not how it's played out. At least if it's meant to be the same logbook kid. It's just inconsistent in pretty much every major regard. But there is one kid. And here's the other problem: since it says the girl with curly hair, and Susie is already shown in the game continuity to have curly hair, that would have to mean that the girl with pigtails is Susie, and Cassidy's curly hair if you want to go that route. Or you have to just acknowledge that Susie has curly hair, therefore it's Susie they're talking about there. It's a little hard to explain without showing these 2 pages, but if there's only 2 girls in the group, one of them has pigtails, one of them has curly hair, how did I miss that? Then, you know... Oh, there's another diamond. Is that worth it? No, there's several diamonds. It is worth it. Ugh. There's tons of diamonds down there. It does look like there's a good way out, though. So, what I'll do... But anyway, to explain how this could connect to 2 plus 4 theory. I don't think it really matters, to be honest, who receives the cake at the end of Happiest Day now. And I say this because how FNAF 4 under this theory handles stuff like that is so loose and kind of, maybe not metaphorical, but kind of metaphorical, but it's a lot more ghost-like and ethereal and surreal. And the idea is that we're resetting the scene that had the bullies in it originally. Right? And we're redoing that maybe with the missing kids, or we're just restoring the memory itself. And rewriting it. So it really doesn't matter. Especially with FNAF 6 seemingly kind of shifting the goalpost some for where the story heads. In my opinion, it could kind of go either way, and it doesn't really change anything. If Cassidy was ever confirmed to not be the kid, or to like definitively confirmed to not be the vengeful spirit, I would feel better about saying Cassie is saying Cassie is over in the original missing kid. And that's what's going on there. But if not, I am not as confident in that statement. I just don't really care at this point, because, like I said, it gets to the same result, kind of either way. Yes, I was actually, in the new Midnight Motors video, I want to say that the box is the mound in one segment. Or I proposed the idea in part of that script. Because there's something kind of uncannily well that fits about that. And it specifically hinges on another core part of the theory that really makes that compelling as a concept to me. To kind of summarize the idea, the thing I have for what's the character outside in the main video, for the Michael interpretation at least, because I actually cover multiple ideas in the new video outline and script. What? How did you... is Shadow Freddy. That's the character I have, like, planned to be the entity outside. And part of why I go with that is the order of events of how FNAF 4 ties its setup, right? So, ooh, more diamonds. Holy shit. This might be the most well-equipped run I've ever had for preparing for the Nether. Because I'm getting a decent amount of gold. Maybe not the most I've gotten. The Mesa run, the run where we went to the Mesa, got me tons of gold. But this is still about, I mean, I'm going to make a helmet. This is still about 27, I think. Let me... try to get out of here. Couch Person is kind of the thing that bothers me the most in Midnight Motorist, because it's the way I phrase in this video is like, if it is just Michael, if we're just meant to assume that, and we're meant to kind of stop our theorizing there, then in theory the rest of the minigame should just click together, right? Like we shouldn't need to theorize alternative solutions or options. The one problem is, no matter how I've put together the Bite Victim storyline with Midnight Motorist, it's never felt satisfying with him in mind, and that's part of why people have theorized so many like alternative options over time. And I don't just mean satisfying from like a narrative standpoint, because I know it is always possible on paper. I want to get this spider. I need string. It always is, in theory, possible that the lore is just unsatisfying with Midnight Motorist, that the answer just sucks, right? The answer is just bad, and it's not good, and that's where the lore ends. It's just a shitty answer. But my problems go beyond just the answer isn't satisfying. It's the answer doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you add it together, in a way that I'm like, why would you even include this? Like, what is this telling us about anything? Because it's not even like Fruity Maze helps elaborate on kind of Susie's role, how the missing kids are killed, confirming Spring Bonnie was the suit used. And it also kind of helps reinforce the difference between the, the literal purple guy of William and Michael's son. Because this is one of those things you have to remember, because I think a lot of people look at the timeline as if it's always been the community understanding as it's been now. But the community perspective and understanding of the lore changes constantly. It's worth noting that Markiplier's takeaway from wrong material. Sister Location Custom Night was that purple guy was evil and a killer because the animatronics killed him. Like ever since that incident, he's become this hollow husk wandering around, trying to feel like full again. That was like Mark's interpretation was that Michael was the purple guy, the one who killed the kids, and his motive was like his soul being destroyed and kind of drained by the scooping. So, Susie's minigame doesn't seem that important nowadays, because it's like, oh, we've always understood that or whatever. It's kind of been the take. But it is weirdly helpful just to have, like, something we were confident on reiterated. In pretty, like, inarguable terms. Because you can see very clearly in that sequence that he has human eyes. Using this advanced technique, I can restore my hair. Right? So it's weirdly important to remember, like, how things are confirmed and explained to us as fans. And why some of these minigames matter more than we might think in hindsight. And the same thing kind of applies to security puppets. Like, it may not... Like, we already had Charlie's backstory explained to us in FNAF 2. Like, we've known that backstory for ages. But A, we never actually saw the puppet interact with Charlie, which is a nice bonus of the new version. B, she's been changed to being a girl. It was Save Him in the original version. It's also nice to finally, like, see the puppet interact, and also it's nice to have it stated after the whole, like, the bite victim is the puppet confusion that happened at that time. So that was another big thing. That was most people's leading answer and assumption coming out of FNAF 4, other than Golden Freddy. Or Dream Theory was the other big one. So having it stated, like, once again, in inarguable terms, that the puppet was this girl, we kind of agree is named Charlie. It's never been stated in game, but that element's... Most people won't fight you on that part. That her name is Charlie. Like, it helps confirm and, like, reiterate that, and it really plays into, like, the revised, kind of updated story. But I just realized I think I saw a snow biome really close to where I spawned in. It might be good to collect snowballs for this run for blazes. Yeah, and this is where I'm getting at. I feel like FNAF 6 was really true to what it said about tying up loose ends. And my problem with a lot of interpretations is they're not doing that for Midnight Motorist. Like, on any arguable level, I don't see how you could argue it's tying up loose ends to do something like introduce Andrew, or anything related to the Mimic for that matter. I would argue it's just kind of silly to assume that last minute Scott was like, we're doing a new kid of the 6. Or the 5, 6, whatever, you get my point. The exact number doesn't really matter here. The point is adding in a new victim is kind of a silly thing to do in that game, in that context. Like, it makes almost more sense for Ultimate Custom Night. Because while that's still kind of an epilogue game, it's at least more believable to me. Did I not get leather from... Like, did I not pick up the leather there at all? Like, that interpretation doesn't feel very satisfying or reasonable to me, for example. Nor does it make sense from a logistical element, which is something I'll have to explain in the video some. I actually think I do come up with a pretty... Maybe not super believable, like, maybe not perfect, but like a good explanation for how a missing kid runaway storyline would work. And I still conclude it's like there are still certain core flaws to that assumption. Even at the best I could get it. And whatever I was saying. And it doesn't really tell us anything new about an old thing. That would have to be introducing like an entirely new thing. And likewise, a lot of the missing kid runaway variants, let's say, I would argue those do a lot of that same problem. I can. That's neat. Let me do that while I kind of sort out my inventory some. I'm actually going to use iron shovel here. Okay, I want to test something. Okay, that kind of works. Depends. Can I stack these up to 64? And now, I want to be super clear about this. Okay. Now rake with my hand. Okay, I need a shovel, though. That's my one concern with that option. But I still think that gets us the most snowballs in the most compact space. Like, even if it's not giving me 4 every time, that's better than... 64 times 3 is still better than 1 stack of 16. So I think this is... the best option here. But I'm looking for something that doesn't try to invent the wheel or introduce even that too much new lore. Just explain things that weren't explained very well or that we're questioning some. And part of the appeal of really any Afton Midnight Motorist interpretation to me is it reinforces what the family of the Aftons is like in a way that I feel like the missing kid runaway stuff doesn't really get that advantage of. Because this is another important thing. We have to put ourselves in the mindset of theorists at the time. at the time, William caring about his kids was not only a theory, it was game theory's interpretation of the story and lore. Remember, his interpretation was it was a man, a broken man trying to put his family back together. Um, that was the thing then. Um, and wow, actually, this is a weirdly useful fuel resource. So when we talk about stuff like that, it's like we're not just theorizing. Like, it makes a lot of sense to take a little bit of time and reiterate to us, the fans, it's like, no, Afton's a fucking lunatic. Like, he's not just a bad guy, he's like an incredibly horrible bad guy. So, like, if it has to be something about, like, FNAF 1 through 6 that helps us, like, interpret the lore a little bit better or safer, I don't need the egg if I've got snowballs. I think it would be more in the vein of that, personally. Let's use gravel next. I think that makes significantly more sense to elaborate on and tell us this is the family dynamic. I think it also helps. I don't know if I think at least like Treesicle was on the Michael is the subordinate, the co-hand, the right hand, the one helping, like the not just like disciple or assistant, but like the full blown like servant, like the Sith Darth Vader to Sidious kind of dynamic of William. I think it also like helps make it clear that that's not really their dynamic. It really is more abuse victim and the one who is the abuser. Like, it makes it clear that it's Michael may have helped William, but it wasn't really because, oh, I want to help kill those kids. Like, he's not an accomplice to the murders, nor even his errand boy. It's just like, I mean, he kind of is, but it's not a dynamic of like master and servant. I think it helps like iterate that, and then I don't have enough string. That's going to be a total pain. You know, I'll get an iron axe while I'm at it. So, okay, I've got plenty of iron. I've got a good amount of food. Gold. Anything else? Oh, that's just kind of it. And that makes more sense to clarify to me, because that really does change the storyline some. Depending on your like interpretation of the Afton household. Wouldn't that be a polar bear? I think those deal a shitload of damage, so I'm gonna try and not interact with that. Well, I collect more emergency food. But also, like, Shadow Freddy is my pick for what the entity outside is. I was trying to get to that for a bit, but I kept stumbling on that topic. And the reason being is Michael clearly has to encounter Shadow Freddy at some point for Nightmare to be the final boss of FNAF 6, of FNAF 4. Like, why imagine a black bear of all things as your greatest fear? Like, the one that's the most violent, the hardest to encounter and defeat. It implies he has some specific trauma related to that image, and for the night to be called Shadow Freddy, when you break it down in like ClickTeam's kind of viewer engine thing, it implies they've had some history between the two. And that's weird. And it's also weird that it loosely seems like the setup of the game is kind of meant to correlate with what's going on in the mini games, not like one to one, but kind of like a thematic thing of like for example, the bite happens with Fredbear biting the missing kid, biting the crying child, and Fredbear's that's the reward for beating the night where Fredbear is the boss. And then the next night we have the plushies fading away, all with Fredbear in the center and all that, and then it's like, oh, that's when we have the first half of the night is uh whatchamacallit, is Fredbear, or is the four normal characters, then it switches to Fredbear. It's like, so there's like some thematic correlation there. Not like, I don't think there's like a mechanical reason. I don't think it's that like, oh, the crying child's causing this as he's reliving his memories or whatever. Because I don't think FNAF 4's minigames occur at the same time as the FNAF 4 nightmares in any context, because they really shouldn't. The FNAF 4 nightmares reference the Vita Base 7 in past tense. Which means pretty much no matter how you interpret the minigames of FNAF 4, like the crying child half of things, it doesn't make sense for him to, like, it doesn't make sense for those two things to line up, considering that you either have it in 1983 or in my new video you have it in 1987. You would have to do some weird thing where he's in the FNAF 1 pizzeria or whatever the hell in real time, and that's just kind of clunky. I mean, I guess it simplifies things some, but it's like, it complicates others. Anyway, to get to what I'm saying, it's like that. It almost seems like there's a thematic correlation between the two. And then when everything fades to black, you get Nightmare Night, and then after you beat Nightmare Night, you unlock the box. And then in Midnight Motorist, the box or whatever the buried thing is like hidden out in the woods nearby our important family for the sake of Midnight Motorist. And obviously you don't put something buried in the woods if you're proud of it or you want to keep it around. You're trying to hide it for some reason. Like there's something about that item that you're trying to kind of get rid of for the time being. Or perhaps forever. And the box is described as something that is best left forgotten for now, right? Implying whatever the box is, there's some level of like shame or trauma or fear or something associated with it that needs to be forgotten for the time being, but is important later on in the timeline. So what I think Midnight Motorist is showing, I have overcorrected. So it's this way. This way. Right? So that lines up with the box already, but also the Shadow Freddy thing lines up. Right? Because if Shadow Freddy is meant to correlate with the trauma associated with like the bite or whatever, or with the nightmares in general, then that would imply that Kid Michael or Adult Michael has some specific fear with that, because that's kind of our running gimmick and theme with this all, right? Like, there's something that scares the shit out of Mike with Shadow Freddy. And he's one of the only animatronics where we know for a fact he can talk, firstly. Already kind of a scary thought to consider, is that thing can talk. Second, it's a mirror of Fredbear specifically, and now that we have Charlie confirmed to die at Freddy's and not Fredbear's, with whatchamacallit, with Ticket to Fun, because unlike the bite thing I was talking about earlier, that's pretty inarguable. it says, like, enjoy your security bands from Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And then it shows a picture of Charlie behind it in black light. Which I'll get to in a moment. That's another important piece in all this. But if Charlie doesn't die at Fredbear's or doesn't interact with a Fredbear in really any clear way, and Scott was specifically trying to point us to the idea that it was Freddy's where she was killed in the game continuity, then my prior theories and speculations along the lines of, oh, the 69. Okay, we're still going this way. That Fredbear, like her dying with the person either wearing Fredbear or the animatronic wandering around, is what creates Shadow Freddy. That doesn't really hold up as well because it's hard to argue it's Fredbear now. In the best case scenario, I could even pitch for her dying at Fredbear's and still having it be, or her dying at Freddy's and still having it be Fredbear was like that there was a Fredbear character at Freddy's at some point. But like now I don't have any confidence in that notion really anymore. Okay, now we're kind of going near straight this way. So Shadow Freddy now has to be something related to something way more specific. It has to be something way specific, like more specifically tied to Fredbear itself, right? And there's only 2 things we know of that Fredbear is really involved with that could make sense with that. Maybe 3 if we really push the shadow that he was involved in the bite because of the toys concept. And that's Cassidy's death and possessing Golden Freddy. That could connect, yes. That's missing kids and all that. Okay, we're here now. So, base time. That's a plausible but not perfect premise. Let me actually get more, because I can actually increase my enchantment some with this. Like I said, it's plausible. It's not absurd to think, but if Charlie dies earlier in the timeline, that's not on the table, right? That only works if Charlie dies like later in the timeline, because we have all the security puppet connections in Midnight Motorist. And there's even more than most people think. There's like weird stuff even with the music that people don't notice, like the fact that I think the YouTuber, maybe not YouTuber, just the YouTube account uploaded a video that showed that Midnight Motors was a sped up version of Security Puppet's theme. Like there's stuff like that people don't even really consider. I suppose it's a little faster to do it this way. Let me get the portal. Let me also get this burning, cooking everything off. But, there's stuff like that that a lot of people don't consider. That's really interesting. So it's like, since it has to be bound to Charlie's death, though, so that kind of locks out the missing kids unless they die before her in some way. Oh, god damn it. Well, I'm gonna make a pickaxe anyway. I want an enchantment table. Right, so if we're bound to Charlie's death chronologically, then Shadow Freddy, since it's one of the only characters that can lure you that way, if he's the thing outside, which he fits the bill of, he has the 3 toes, he lures kids, he's based on Golden Freddy, who is known for his weird teleporting behavior. That was almost really bad. I could have died there. I And I also need more obsidian anyway. So the idea, not only do we assume he can teleport because of the Golden Freddy connections, I would argue we've seen him even do it because he kind of just blinks around like a wizard in Follow Me. Like, he can appear no matter which corridor you go down, even if you actively avoid him. So either he's incredibly fast, or it can teleport. And also, he seems to have something of a physical premise, because there's supposed to be, it's not included in the final release of FNAF 2, but there's supposed to be a sound effect where he, like, you look at him, and then he blinks away and kind of vanishes. So it implies he has some, like, physical presence or existence that, like, you can hear him move and all that. So he can lure kids, he has physical presence, arguably, he can teleport. He probably could. Shadow, like, RWQ seems to be able to do stuff like that. Considering it, like, phases in and out of reality in the Happiest Day mini games. So in my opinion, there's a complete argument for him being the character outside that's pretty coherent with most interpretations of the story. In fact, I would say kind of no matter who you have run away, he's one of the safest bets, in my opinion. Right? So, Shadow Freddy. However, if this is around the time of Charlie's death, there's only really one thing that could get him to exist if we run by the logic of, like, agony or whatever, or even just the idea that something haunts something. And that would be the bite victim's death. That's the only thing involving Fredbear that really makes sense that could be the source for which he is derived or comes into existence. Which goes against the idea of him being the runaway, firstly. Secondly, it would also kind of... I mean, that's, like, actually the main point. I was going to say a secondly, but that's really it. Like, for Shadow Freddy, the easiest answer to be outside, it would kind of now hinge on the bite victim dying after Charlie. Or before Charlie, sorry, flip that. Because Charlie's death doesn't really make sense anymore to explain where Shadow Freddy even comes from. Not unless it was now retroactively confirmed. So that's a big bite to him. And then also, I'm not quite sure how... Let me kind of gather my thoughts on this before I say something. I'm not quite sure what else it would be other than Shadow Freddy. You know, that's the other thing that kind of bugs me about that topic. Is... it's a pretty specific scenario, and without doing something like MCI 83 or something that shifts our timeline for what happens when, there's not many things that could be outside to torment the bite victim. Or not torment, but just, like, lure or whatever and fuck with the bite victim. That should work. So that's my next major complaint. Is he doesn't really have a good thing to lure him for the known lore. Considering that Charlie's just died, and if she's supposed to be before the missing kids, that, you know, the missing kids aren't on the table, we would have to have some other thing that's not really clear in the lore by this point. Why can't I leave? There we go. And the last major complaint I have with him being the runaway is there's kind of a conceptual... It feels like the game's continuity would be kind of going against itself for what it said about the bite victim. Since what we are told from FNAF 4 is the main reason he's bullied is because he's so afraid of the animatronics. Like, that's what people are picking on him for. Is specifically his fear of the animatronics. However, Midnight Motorist says the kid who's running away uh is like had a rough day today, which firstly implies they don't usually have rough days. Otherwise, why even bother saying that? It's like he had another rough day today. It would make more sense if it was like the bite victim and he was always miserable. Let's say. Um. Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. That's power, power, power. I'll take power. Fire protections immediately. Okay. Bed, we're just gonna leave out here. Gold. Right, so if the bite victim's reason for being bullied, or what people make fun of him for is being afraid of the animatronics, if we're having him run away and be lured by a huge animatronic-like character, we're kind of implying he wasn't always afraid of the characters, or that he needed specific trauma to be afraid of them. However, like this, not only is the scenario a bit weird, but it's also like, what was he being bullied about beforehand? If he's not afraid of the animatronics right now, and he's being lured by one, and he's willing to follow one wherever it wants him to go, what was he being picked on before? Like, what's the point of that line? Why not say it's like... Why not say something else? Like, say something that implies he was at the top of his game at this point in the timeline. Why imply he's already kind of miserable? If we're going to do a storyline that hinges on him not being the way he was when FNAF 4 happened. I think the Diamond Sword's the next logical upgrade. Maybe Diamond Helmet? I could do both, though, right? I could do that. Yeah, I could do both. So I think that's the most efficient use now. Let's see. Can we get a good enchantment on this? I don't think about sharpness. Would need more experience, though. I'll stuff this away. Hide the lapis for now. I don't really need it. I think I'm good on the kind of gravel grind right now. I can work on it more later. Put the feathers away. I'm not going to really use them. That's more like emergency building materials there. This is kind of, I think, the best I can hope for, equipment-wise. Come on! Close to a fortress. We've had some good luck with this. We've had a lot of runs where we actually get to the fortress pretty quickly. This may not be one of them. 20, 50, negative 28. 20, 50, negative 28. That will work. This is not a good spawn. I don't think the story's actually going to shift that much between iterations, honestly. I think that's kind of an exaggerated point in the fandom. Because it is true that we make some major breakthroughs every now and then for the lore. But I don't think I would go so far as to say it's like, it's going to be unrecognizable later. Not unless something really severe happens with, I would say, the Mimic storyline game stuff. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're not that far. And we have the warped. We have the warped forest. Problem is that's really far away. And I'm not sure what the safest way to even get there would be. Because that's a lot of blocks. In general, honestly, it's just a really inconvenient location. How do I maneuver there? I'm looking at YouTube chat. What was the FNAF discussion I was about? It was kind of bouncing around between a few different things. It was mainly about Midnight Motorist now. But the thing I was just talking about was like, will the lore change completely? Or at least, will the fandom's understanding of the lore change completely or not? I don't really think it will. I think the lore is pretty, not steady as it is, but like, I think we have enough of the gist that I'm not really worried about that in particular being completely changed irreparably. That's not to say I don't think like that we won't get different weird interpretations of the lore like officially. Or there won't be like breakthroughs where we realize we've been looking at something kind of wrong. Just that I think like the gist of what most of the story about I think will be the same. Okay, so if I connect over here, and then I can connect this back to the spawn point. I think we'll be good. It will just be a matter of bridging over and making that stable and, like, workable. That's the other thing. It's like something I want to bring up in that new video is it's like you can actually cover a lot of Midnight Motorist just with like a little bit of common sense and like reasoning out like, okay, well, obviously it can't be a non-haunted character outside. So a lot of the characters we don't think are haunted, like we don't think Funtime Chica's haunted, for example, wouldn't make sense to be outside. And there's certain characters where it's like, I guess it's not stated the Funtimes never went outside, but it's like, it doesn't really make sense for the Funtimes to be outside at that exact moment. Because, from what we know, the gist of their story was that they wanted to leave the bunker, but couldn't. Right? That's like that's their conflict. And Afton was specifically using them at birthday party rentals, not just like random... Out you go, Funtime Freddy, go attack the children! He wasn't doing that. Um, it was like a specific like system that doesn't. Here, let me do this to block off any magma cubes. That doesn't really like apply to like a lot of other situations. So it's like I don't think it's the fun times. The nightmares don't make much sense. They're either literal nightmares or whatchamacallit. They're a mixture of literal nightmares and like things on propped tracks, right? They're not. You don't just have them just materialize out of thin air like that, really. Yeah, when the room is empty, they trap children. They don't just randomly run out to a house to murk kids. And also, clearly the kid isn't attacked because they run right by the thing. Or whoever runs out that window runs cleanly by it. And that's the other point, is the fun times aren't meant to be involved with William killing kids. Like, the whole point is that he doesn't need to do anything anymore himself. So it's like the fun times, I think, are off the table for being the character outside. For starters. And then it becomes like a game of, okay, like, who else? Well, it has the cliche, like, three-toed animatronic, like, bear animal footprint design. Which also means it can't be, like, Withered or Classic Chica both have, like, the bird footprint design. So she's kind of off the table too, like both iterations. Toy Chica's kind of on the table. She actually does have the three-toed design, weirdly enough. But also all the toys have the same feet. Mangle's pretty much cut off. The only reason Mangle would leave the pizzeria would be if it's haunted and save them, which is kind of the earliest that can happen is when Mangle's already destroyed. And Mangle, the only other argument for Mangle being haunted is the whole like take apart, put back together remnant from the older animatronics concepts, and that still hinges on it being torn apart and like damaged. So it's like Mangle has 3 feet and has really weird feet, so it doesn't make sense for Mangle either. And almost every humanoid-esque character, like Baby or Balloon Boy, they all have like really distinct non-cartoony animal feet, so they're all off the table. The Endos are off the table. They have weird robotic feet. So it's like, that's what I'm saying, where it's like you actually narrow down stuff like that pretty quickly. So it's like, it's got to be like one of like the classic animatronics. It's probably not one of the mediocre melodies. We don't really think they're actually haunted at all. To our knowledge. That's a scary possibility that Magma Cube could just fall from the sky. I didn't even think about that. I don't know how to protect against that without building up tons of resources for a roof. So it's like stuff like that. You can just like narrow down chunks of it at a time. Do you think they'll ever end the lore? Maybe. I don't think we should expect that or like speculate on a win right now, because I don't think that's really something too on the table for the time being. I think the lore is going to keep going for a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a third major arc, honestly. I know a lot of fans probably wouldn't like that to happen, but I'd be kind of surprised if we stopped after the Mimic. Because I think FNAF kind of wants to be a forever franchise right now, whether people like that or not. Like, you know, it's like Spider-Man doesn't end. There's no point where Peter Parker's story is really done. I mean, they thought about doing it for a while, and they thought about shifting it to Ben Riley, which is Scarlet Spider, the clone of Peter, who got his own life because Peter has their original life. They tried to do that in the 90s, but they got cold feet last second, and they reverted it back to Peter. He became Spider-Man again after basically like a week of Ben Riley being the Spider-Man. Still wasn't sure if Scott's original lore, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're not sure of most of his original like storyline. Okay, I should be at an angle where blazes can't hit me now, so I'm not. Yeah, like I said, I just don't think we're gonna get like to that point really anytime soon. Okay, fire, damn annoying fire burn damage in the Nether. I got a blaze rod. I guess I got. Oh, from one of the ones I killed probably. Okay. So now. Did I not? Okay. I thought I had... This is a really stressful scenario. Okay, got that done. Put that away. Okay, snowballs armed. Yeah, I just don't think FNAF is the type of series to just like have an end like that. Come on. Okay. This is stressful as shit. This is not a good fortress spawn. This is an incredibly scary, like, near irrecoverable one. Okay, let me... Okay. I got several. And there's tons of skeletons. Why? Am I out of arrows already? There's way too many skeletons. I wouldn't say that the story was just made to entertain the fans afterwards. I think that does a discredit to what the Security Breach era goes for. God, this is such a terrible... God! The reason I'm so freaked out by fire damage is that's killed me so many times. It's not even the hits themselves. It's specifically the fear of a random rogue attack and random wither damage killing me. God! And the fact that the hitbox feels huge. I'm trying to see if I can get the wither skeletons to kind of despawn. Because I have no way to fight off that many of them. I mean, I guess I can just, like, lure and bait them through my little maze system here. It does kind of thin out the horde some. Nope. What's burning me? I know I feel like I'm whiny, but this is the exact step I've died on. Like, every goddamn playthrough. It really is the wither skeletons that kill me. They have been the enemy of progress, and I'm stuck on this stupid single corridor. On one hand, I know I can just block with my shield. What the hell? Obviously, that's a major factor. Shit like this freaks me out. Barely any health left. Like, look at this shit. My shield's wearing down and something keeps hitting me. I think that thing just died. Like, what I really want is just to be able to lock myself in with just the blazes and get rid of them more strategically. I really can't do that. Like the blocks and like resources I have right now. And I'm completely blocked either way. what I really need out of is just like this fortress in general. Let me see if I can just do it this way. There's not really a good strategy. Stuff like this can burn so easily. No! I hit F5. God damn it. God damn it. Well, it slowed them down successfully, I guess. The wood, that is. But I also forgot, does wood just naturally catch fire in the nether? If it's not one of the nether woods? Okay, I'm gonna have to go back. Let me see if I can... That's not an option. I mean, I still can thin out this area some for blocks. Specifically blocks that won't burn. So what my scheme is, what my vision is, that was very close. This fortress, this is one of the worst fortresses I've ever had. Like, I have no clean, real way of approaching. God damn it, let me back off so I can strategize some more. Okay, so that's my plan, is lock it off. I only have to deal with this one hallway, in theory. If all goes according to plan. Next, I kill that damn wither skeleton. This also will make it harder for stuff to follow me back if this works right. Can I walk in snowbox to stop fire? I don't think... Yeah, it doesn't... I don't think they work like that. Keep working through the stake. Okay. So, step one is accomplished, kind of. Okay. I've kind of blocked off everything that was dangerous. And I have my boat. And now... scary part is kind of done. Have a taste of your own medicine, freaks. Damn it. Still really annoying. Okay. Now I run back, recoup some. Do that. Eat food. We're at 4 down. I want to go for a little bit more. Yeah, I would need a powder snow bucket. No, I can't do it while I'm hungry. God, hard mode sucks sometimes. Hardcore mode specifically. I've also pissed off. I've also pissed off Pigment, which I was worried about. I'm starting to get really annoyed with the fact the spread really sucks. This is what I was saying, where snowballs are so much more plentiful in block form. Come on, that didn't hit. No, 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 no. Okay. This fortress blows. We've had so many better fortresses than this. Okay. And it's from both directions. Well, on the bright side, I'm really not running out of blazes to fight. I need one more. One more minimum. Okay. And I don't need snowballs, but I am a little concerned. Nope, I'm getting greedy. And to cement that I'm not going to get too greedy. I'm not going to make this mistake again. Okay. Seven. I think I should be content with that. Question is, how do I leave? Okay, let's see. 8 in my head, that's 16. I'm also kind of EXP farming here, which I know is kind of getting weird, but I think, okay, 9. I don't see any world where we need more than 9. Okay. Okay, one at a time. They're not that bad because they die in 3 hits. Okay. Well, that was horrible, but we did it. And things cleared up back here. That was maybe the worst case scenario. I got no loot out of this fortress. I didn't get nether wart. I'm a little worried about that, actually. I want potions this time around. Where would I even go, though? I guess... And I know this is really a you should quit while you're ahead situation. Since I am missing a little bit of loot that I would really enjoy having. And it seems to have cooled down in the fortress somewhat. I will look into... this section some, just for nether wart. Come on. Where's one of the... Yeah, I'm still going to turn with most of them. Them being the zombie pigmen. Where? Okay. I'm just gonna make a run for it. Okay, nether wart. Nether wart. That major chunk of my struggles is done. Like I said, I'm not even... It's not even that I think, like, potion crafting is, like, particularly important. It's that I would rather have it than not. I would rather have, like, a regen potion going into... the final encounter than not. That's too far to build, right? I think it's more obtainable to build back to where... I don't know why I'm really doing it this way. I guess just to have the wall with my back. I'm doing this a very strange way, but like I'm already need to be lower. But I have everything I want from the Nether except for that warp forest. But I would rather go about getting that a way that does not involve the fortress being in range. Plan is to kind of mine through directly, like column by column here, because I think you can do that. I think there's enough block distance. If they're not, if there's not, it won't be that hard to get more. Like I said, this is the stupidest way to do this. We have 41 viewers. Where do all of you people keep coming from? Okay. So this is almost to the final pillar. Isn't that a different fortress? I don't know what you mean. What? Oh, is that a different fortress? I was paying attention. No, this is technically the same one. I've just built around it more and kind of been digging around. Oh, you are my recommended? Okay. Thank you, YouTube. I still don't understand. That scared me. How the hell do we get to the Warp Fortress? Big question left. That really scared me. I thought I was knocked off. And I don't have a flame resistance potion, so that would have been game. Okay. Now, time to investigate how to get to that warped forest. Warped forest. Well, that's one way to get to this video, or stream, I guess, in this case. Okay. So, this is technically doable, I think, by try to flatten this out, let's say. And then collect the blocks to build over. It shouldn't be that bad. Compared to what we just went through, I don't see how it could get much worse. Besides being knocked off by some random projectile. Let me brainstorm this whole operation some. So if I mean, I guess I just go for it. I don't know. Is there any reason to hesitate, other than the chance something appears out of nowhere and knocks me off? Because if I fall in the lava here, I just die. I'm not fast enough to get out this huge lake of lava. There's always the chance something above just falls over and kills me. Is this enough? I feel like I'm close. Just about enough. Okay. There's now a way back. Yeah, so this is my preparation for Hytale. I've always wanted to be hardcore Minecraft. I know Hytale doesn't seem to have a hardcore mode right now. Or maybe it does, I don't know. They haven't really talked about that. The lack thereof, or if it is. But this, I wanted to beat one of my biggest troubles with Minecraft before I moved on to Hytale. They must have, like, roughly about 14 health. You know, I'm paranoid from so many stupid deaths when I'm building over, like, the dumbest little pits and platforms. On the bright side, this unbreakable diamond pickaxe really does seem virtually indestructible. Like, I have not been using it super lightly. And it's gotten us most of the way. Let me dig this way and use that little ridge. The goon of 87. I shouldn't have read that, but I couldn't. It was just the only new thing in the chat, and my brain was like, ooh, read thing. New thing, chat. Say that. Say words. Any word ending with O-O-N, I think will be forever cursed to be paired with the goon of blank. Not that byte ends with O-O-N, just like, in general. It will be forever damned to the possibility that someone will take it and rework it into being the oon of whatever, the goon of blank. For example, in Marvel Rivals, Moon Knight's ultimate line is, the moon haunts you. But because Marvel Rivals, you know, it is a hero shooter, it is kind of a gooner game in some regards for some of the skins. The goon haunts you is very much a phrase ushered whenever a new Luna Snow skin drops, basically. I need to get rid of these guys before those piglins see me. Because my helmet just broke. And it's good that I've seen piglins, because I want to trade. And we have the warp forest now. So we're most of the way through, I would say, the scary stuff, other than the end itself. Okay. In you guys go. Should have done this to collect blocks. Come on. String? I don't mind having more of that. Spectral arrows are like the main thing I want, though. Please, more arrows. Always more arrows. I have consistently been bamboozled by not having enough arrows. You guys already done with the gold? You little jerks. That was a lot of gold you guys ate. And yes, everyone knows piglins eat gold. That's clearly what they use it for. Don't look at their structures. Don't look at their weapons. Don't look at their armor. They ate it. What else would they do with it? I have enough leather too, so I'm not screwed in that regard. Back here. Okay. Come on. You guys are in a really annoying set of positions. Stop. No. One down. One quadrillion to go. As before, I've said my standard for what I want to have is about 1 stack of ender pearls, so 16. That's a bit more than the minimum needed. Okay, that was scary. That's 2 down. No. Come on. Okay, let me get you two. Sure. Luckily, I'm getting pretty good drops. Yeah, don't look at your friend. It's not here. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay. 1/8 the way there. Where am I at? This is actually a good topic to use for this time frame because it's going to take a bit. Oh, I missed one. So, in the Ultimate Custom Night Vengeful Spirit debate, I'm at a crossroads where it kind of feels like there's no amazing candidate. Gotcha. That slightly paid off. So I'll list the valid contenders in my head. There is obviously Cassidy, but Cassidy's biggest question is what was going on with the gender thing. Was that referring to the suit Golden Freddy? If that was meant to be Cassidy, was Cassidy meant to be a boy, and then just something got kerfuffled in the notes, or something changed in development? I know this is a more risky strat, but I think I can do it. I've got a pretty durable shield. Got a pretty good amount of food, and I can make another shield very quickly. But Cassidy fits almost every other contender qualification, I would say. There's nothing about Cassidy other than the gender thing that doesn't feel like it adds up. And it explains the fading away sequence at the end of the game very well. So those are kind of the points for Cassidy. It explains the ending. There's a lot of theming of mirror characters and opposites, and self-reflection in Ultimate Custom Night. The main theme of the game is fear of your own is istrophobia, which is fear of reflection. Implies the vengeful spirit, or whatever William's facing, is kind of the fear of himself or things related to himself, right? That seems to be the theme and premise of Ultimate Custom Night. So Cassidy, as the thing that haunts Golden Freddy, ticks that box quite nicely, since William's so associated with Frank Ronnie. It is truly like fear of yourself. Or not fear of yourself, but like fear of mirrors, like your reflection, the thing that's the most like you. Um, so Cassidy is an obvious pick in that specific regard. But the gender thing really does stand out. It really depends on what they're referring to. When they say the one you should not have killed, a lot of people really insist they mean the spirit itself, which I'd be lying if I said I didn't understand that explanation. I completely get where that premise is coming from. I guess my biggest question is, what does that truly refer to? Does it refer to the character? Like, is this a puppet situation where the character seems to be two different genders, or not? I can't even shoot you with a bow. You're immune to it. Come up here. I'm gonna hit one of your friends while I'm waiting for that. I know it's not a good idea. Gotcha. Damn it! I knew it was going to happen. I fucking... I was so afraid of that happening. I didn't think they did enough to the shield. I didn't think it mattered that much to the shield. I thought I had more hits. I knew it was low, but I also thought it would go into the damn boat. But it, like, perfectly worked around it. Alright. One more. I'll do one more for the night. Number 19. Let's see what the world looks like. Because I don't feel like that's a good point to end. That felt too incomplete. Yeah. Which kind of goes with what I was about to say. It's like but it's also believable that Scott was trying to, like, set up a new storyline there. I can kind of see that because Ultimate Custom Night is a little separated. It really depends. It's like, what's more believable, that the spirit they're talking about is a different gender than the suit they haunt, and they're talking about the suit, or that we're entirely just now introducing a secret extra character who has not been part of the story up to this point. And I would argue both have a little bit of their own precedent. Like, FNAF 2 definitely proves that we can have a character introduced as one gender that will be kind of flip-flopped later. And all that. But then you can argue Cassie's gender was more solidified or less solidified by this point. In the form of the Fourth Closet, which released around the time of Ultimate Custom Night. Which would imply it was already in development. So Scott should have known that, but also it's like overlapping development and all that. It's a whole... There's a lot of, like, maybes or, like, it could'ves in that topic. That's good. That's good. There's a... This is a weird little spot here. I'm very curious. How do I go about this? This is only like 2 ingots, right? Um, and honestly, that entire topic of Ultimate Custom Night um, is like, it doesn't feel like there's an intended way to solve it. You know, I think that's my biggest gripe. Is if we argue Cassie's eventual spirit, then you have to deal with the weird gender thing and how it's explained and attributed to it all. Like it's not very intuitive to have Cassidy be a girl and be the vengeful spirit. I will not pretend that's not a factor in all of this. However, it's also really annoying to introduce a character in a really weird way, where it's not even entirely clear there's a new character, then end their storyline with a shot of an unrelated character when their identity is still kind of a mystery. I think that's really strange and a really awkward way to handle something. I'm really curious about this. This is a functional portal. This is a completely functional portal. Okay. Before I do anything with this, I'm very curious. Oop, that was dumb. I'm very, like, this is actually incredibly lucky to find. I mean, I know I'm kind of wasting an iron, but I'm very curious where this even leads. Because for all we know, there's a fortress right here. I'm not equipped to deal with it yet, but like that. I mean, it's useful. Certainly cool. 764, 128, portal overworld. Well, that's interesting to work with. Okay. More materials. We'll go back here. Like I said, it's either you're portraying the ending shot with Golden Freddy, and you need to give a very unsatisfying answer to that by saying it's Cassidy moving on, in a really weird ass visual that doesn't look at all like what a spirit moving on really should, even by the series' logic. Like, up to this point, the idea of moving on has always been something kind of quiet and peaceful, or like dramatic. And not dramatic in the weird Discord music, like, not Discord as in the software, but like discordant music that's like uneven, kind of creepy, with fire crackling in the background. Like, that's the Ultimate Custom Night music for that shot. Even though the fire part's very quiet. That doesn't really come off to me as, oh, peace as a character moves on and finds a resolution. Or if it was, would imply that they weren't in that state until the very last moment of that cutscene. And that's still, like, even that interpretation reeks of Vengeful Spirit. Like, the chaos, the violence, the inharmonic notes, and then the silence and peace. That feels like very, like, ending of a character, ending of a storyline, kind of writing, pacing, reveal wise. Oh, I can use leaves, but I can't use wildflowers. So flowers are less flammable than leaves? I mean, I can kind of believe that there's more water in them, I think, but still throws me off. Um, it's that particular part is super unintuitive. So then you have to explain what Golden Freddy's role in the game is, because clearly Golden Freddy would have to be aware of whatever's going on in Ultimate Custom Night for like the final cutscene to have anything to do with its plot line. And on the flip side, it's like that. You have other theories like the Vivek being the vengeful spirit, but then it's like, how the hell did you get him in the game where William has the majority of evidence for being the one tormented? Because there's the whole I am the fearful reflection of what you have created is such a hard line to fit in with Michael's character. And even if you do, the payoff to it sucks. I don't care what some people say, I cannot see how you can be satisfied with William not being the one being tormented, because like Michael, let me rephrase that. I don't see how you can find Michael being tormented a satisfying conclusion to how the story was set up. At least assuming that's the end to his character. I would sooner believe Michael is his own vengeful spirit, or this is in his own head in purgatory, something like that. Maybe that's an interesting angle I've never thought of. I've never thought of that angle. So hear me out. I don't think this is the case, to be clear. I don't think this is what the storyline is. It goes about it in a really obtuse way. But follow me on this some. What if there isn't... What if we've been looking at the whole scenario wrong? And I think Fazbear Frice goes against this, which is part of why I say I don't think this is the case. But is it possible that what we think is the vengeful spirit is not real, in quotes? In that it's something that the tormentee has made up in their head in guilt. In this case, Michael. Where he is imagining the crying child tormenting him because that's how he feels he should be treated. And part of what like the Golden Freddy ending is showing what's really going on, like what the real interpretation is. And part of what the drowning ending is showing is that's not the case. It's interfering, like, but then it's leave the demon to his demons implies they kind of deserve it. No, that kind of breaks the theory. Never mind. So that would imply like a sense of let this happen. This is what it's meant to be. It's almost on something there, but no, the last step of the idea doesn't really click. What I was going to say is like the idea of like the vengeful spirit in quotes in this idea would be a thing, a representation of Michael's purgatory, so to speak. If the idea of purgatory in many interpretations is either the zone of those who are morally gray, or people who theoretically have the right to go to heaven but have to absolve their sins first or face them, or like basically serve a sentence until they've achieved, like they've lived through enough to move on. Like those are kind of the variations of the idea. Then it does kind of fit Michael well, of like, this is what you have to go through to make up for your biggest sin, in a way. It's still not as good as William being tormented, conceptually, or at least not as satisfying. Doesn't hit quite the same notes. But there's more to that than, I would say, your usual, the bite victim is just very angry and torments his brother. Like, I don't know, that, like I said, that to me, that doesn't feel, it feels neither intuitive to me nor satisfying. Because you have that Nightmare Online, which is hard to work around. Which is, I was going to say with this idea that the Nightmare Online also is kind of not real, or I should say it is real, but it's Michael blaming himself for Charlie's death. This kind of internal thought that if you hadn't killed the bite victim, Charlie would still be alive. Like him blaming himself for everything happening as in his own mind being his fault. But the ultimate consequence scene doesn't make much sense. Maybe it could be. Given that you encounter ultimate consequence, okay, no, this can still kind of work. Given that you enter the sequence, it could be Mike talking to ultimate consequences. Where he's thinking about William suffering, or something like that, and then still choosing to kind of rest his own soul. Like that could be the moment where he frees himself. Yeah, the hook is weird in Toy Chica stuff, but also, I mentioned this before, that's like, the number 7 still doesn't make much sense. Like, people will kind of try to use it to confirm Andrew is the 7th victim, but 7th of what? Like, what is the 7th directly hand killed by William? Because he's still not even the 7th of that. Because you have the 5 kids from FNAF 2. Or 6 there, it's kind of unclear. So it's like, what is he the 7th of even? What is the qualifier for the Toy Chica minigame? Or not Toy Chica minigame, but Toy Chica segments. That's what irks me there, is like, because Elizabeth exists. The bite victim exists. Missing kids obviously exist, too. That's kind of a side point in this whole topic. It's like, why the number 7 if 7 is meant to be important? You know? I know of Michael being the vengeful spirit, and I understand the reasoning behind it, kind of. I would say my complaint with it is the visual of the child. I guess it could be Michael as a kid, like, I don't know, it's weird. Yeah, direct kills. I would argue Cassidy has a better attachment to number 7, honestly. Because that means by skipping Elizabeth and the other kids, it keeps it to the characters Cassidy would theoretically care about. Because none of the missing kids like Elizabeth. No matter how even if you do a classic Molten MCI Elizabeth haunts baby storyline and Cassidy is part of the amalgam or whatever the hell, even if you do that, Cassidy doesn't like Elizabeth. And the DCI are just kind of a random tragedy in many regards. So maybe it's like, you can argue it's like, these are my friend, like the 7 friends, not the random other people have died that I don't really know very well, and the person I just do not give a shit about, but me, the bite victim, Charlie, and my 4 other friends. That connection makes sense. The problem with Andrew is he has no connection to anyone else, really. I have theorized how he could have a connection to Cassidy, in that Golden Freddy could be also in the safe room if he was Spring Bonnie. But other than that, there's actually no reason for him to be associated with 7 unless we are ignoring the FNAF 2 dead kids. Which is kind of a pointless retcon to drop in there. Like, what are we even retconning there? Just like that, the fact that it exists for the story convenience? Um, and like I said, the pirate hook actually, I would argue makes sense for like Elizabeth, for not Elizabeth, for the bite victim, of like the idea of like he's already dead when Afton's quest to kill starts. Like there's already something in the bag. Like there was already something before Charlie, if that's like the metaphor. Um, like I would argue it still makes sense with Cassidy in mind. You just need to include the bite victim in your set in count 7. Hello, coordinator. Um, at least makes to me about as much sense um as Andrew does for the count of 7 specifically. Um, Cassidy, how does she know of the nightmares? Survival logbook. That's how she would know. Cassidy has literally seen Nightmare Fredbear from the survival logbook. What do you think of the FNAF 3 player not being Michael? The only real other options are Henry or uh Hudson from Fazbear Frights. The problem with Hudson is he doesn't really have a good argument behind his existence for being specifically the Frights guard in the game continuity, at least by his own, at least not by the rationale that his own story gives. In his own story, he's like traumatized specifically by his dad. That's his main phantom. Uh, and the Frights guard in FNAF 3 never hallucinates a dad as a threat, like specifically not even like Springtrap, but like a specifically human parent attacking or being around the corner. Like we never have an interaction like that. And that's pretty key to Hudson's character in a pretty inarguable way. So he would have to be Hudson in name only, and at that point the story becomes really dumb because it just becomes the origin story of a different incarnation of the player character of FNAF 3 who has nothing like the player character of FNAF 3. So it's like, okay, cool, we revealed the name of our random guard. Congrats! Why does he hallucinate the phantoms if the rationale is that he hallucinates the things he has trauma with? Why is he afraid of specifically the classic animatronics when he's only mildly freaked out by them and the story? Like, he finds them creepy, that's because it's a horror attraction. Like, he's supposed to find them creepy, and he does somewhat. But he's not like, holy shit! Freddy! Freddy Chazbear! There's not like a moment like that really in... I mean, there might be. I'd have to reread the story for that specific interaction, but, like, my point is, it's like, it's not, his core trauma isn't Freddy's, it's his dad. But, so I'm not satisfied with that because the explanation there doesn't make sense, and the only other option is Henry, who doesn't have any evidence that doesn't apply to Mike. Other than really placing weight on, you may not recognize me, but I assure you it's still me, meaning that he hasn't seen William since he's became spring-locked. But even that assumes William, like, the phrase may not also implies William's not sure. I feel like that's almost lampshading the design difference between games, personally. Okay, I don't know where that's from. And yeah, Fritz being a distinct character will be the only other way we get to it. I'm a little sad that that world didn't go through. I'll give this one more try, I think. Once again, I feel a little dissatisfied with that. And I think I can go a little longer. Um... Oh. Alright, game. You have until... Okay, that will work. I mean, the Mesa's not a terrible spawn. But... very concerning spawn if you don't see trees right away. It's the initial step of wood and getting food. Yeah, and it also could be like a whole like different identity thing too. Like there's multiple ways to interpret that line, and that's the only line that says anything against Mike being the guard from FNAF 3. I also feel like it was Scott trying to specifically cover the base of people thinking Scraptrap might be a different character than Springtrap. Because I could easily see if that line didn't exist, Springtrap or Scraptrap being interpreted as like a separate thing. Because, you know, Mike Trap was a really strong theory at the time, so I could easily see like the Mike Trap. Or did I say strong? I didn't mean strong. I mean a very common theory. It didn't make much sense, but it was a very popular interpretation. Yeah, it could also just be the flow better, but anyway, point being, the line, you know, I think it makes it clear that it's still Springtrap. Like we've seen this character before. This is not an entirely new character. Because I could easily see the fan base trying to pivot and say like, "Oh, Mike is the original Springtrap. This is a new guy. This is William's Springtrap monster that happened off screen, and also happens to be a yellow corpse rabbit." And don't pretend the fandom wouldn't do that. They absolutely would. Yeah, I talked about the whole, like, it's possible Happiest Day is just meant for the classic kids, but, like, still tied to the By Victim narratively. And his personal send-off is... the spawn might suck. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that part's cool, but I have no food source of, like, any practical kind. Like, nothing really sustainable. I wish squids dropped food. There's really no reason for them not to. And by the way, on the topic of have you considered this theory, I find it funny that I specifically made a video on this theory. Like, the whole theory of, like, oh, is the drowning ending from FNAF 3, or from FNAF World, specifically the Bite Victims ending, unique to him, and that's what it's about. Like, yes, I'm aware of this premise. I talked about it. There's a video on it. Yeah, Mike Trap should have been more debunked, but I've still seen people argue Mike Trap, like, in the present day. So I think that this was more, and also it's still a Steam comment, or not a Steam comment, a Reddit comment, I think it was. I think it's a little stronger to keep it in the game and show it itself. Are you kidding me? I'm gonna reload on this world. I don't like this one. This world just blows. $21. Doubling down. I'm gonna have some snacks and check mix. I'm gonna get hungry. There we go. This is what I want to see right away. I assume that certain things are kept in games just to make it so you don't have to know Scott's personal comment history on different platforms to understand certain things. I almost wonder how many things exist just for that purpose, basically. I don't know if the by victim's exclusive ending, the drowning ending, of as like a patch note to like his story, make it more clear, was something I made up. I assume I wasn't the first ever person to think of that, but I definitely made a video on it, and I hadn't seen anyone else talk about it before, really. So, I mean, I can call it my theory, but like I said, I don't really know if it is. Yeah, like I said, the by victim thing doesn't feel super satisfying for Ultimate Custom. I kind of want to finish that topic because I just realized I didn't talk much about it. I was kind of distracted by the new terrible world. It's not particularly satisfying. It's not particularly compelling because of the Nightmare Online, for the idea of it being Mike specifically, and the idea of it being William requires certain stretches of information we are not given. Like the initial leap in logic of like, oh, William pulled the plug on the by victim and that's what happened there. It's not that bad of an idea. It's just something you can't prove or deny. Like, if it's the case, I couldn't tell you yes or no without seeing that scene again, but from the real world perspective, outside of the by victim's like darkness world thing in that sequence, where it's like in his mind or whatever. Like, you really can't say if we don't see what actually happened. And the theory hinges on something like that. The theory hinges that the bite victim would consider William to be the one who kills him if you're not doing Michael. And like I said, the Michael timeline doesn't make much sense. So that's my kind of stance. Is like, those are the three options I consider the best. 3.5 options, honestly. And I'd argue none of them really feel complete or satisfying. Yeah, I think the yellow suit is supposed to be Golden Freddy, mainly because we didn't know about Spring Bonnie yet. And we don't see Spring Bonnie anywhere in FNAF 2 or any retroactive material, really. Yeah, sort of like what I was just talking about. It's like, it's hard to prove it is Spring Bonnie there. It's easier to argue it's Golden Freddy since that's the one we know. I think any William killed the bite victim storyline that involves him being drunk and forgetting is really dumb because it hinges on Robot Kid stuff. And I'd argue I would need to see a storyline in the FNAF like greater official media that really commits to that before I would argue that at all. just to see that Scott would be even could even consider that as a timeline possibility. What? Where? I heard that arrow very clearly. Where the hell did it come from? Because as far as we, the fans, know, William is incapable of making robot children successfully, according to the novels, where the idea comes from. That's like a huge plot point. You can't look past that because it's like the point that they're trying to make with that storyline is that there's some things that someone cannot achieve for the right reasons or for the wrong reasons. Like, if you're so filled with desperation and hate and jealousy, you will not be able to create something so, like, borderline magic. I think that's an element that's sometimes overlooked. That was close. In the novel Robot Kid storyline is like the Robot Kids there aren't like a sci-fi thing per se. I mean, they kind of are, but it's almost ritualistic and sort of surreally. Like, it's not. It's almost like even Henry himself barely understands what he's doing. It's like this desperate attempt to try and do anything that'll bring Charlie back, and it kind of just eventually works as he improves it over time and time and gets it down better and better. And until we are given a timeline where Afton can suddenly make robot kids, I heavily go against any idea that revolves around that. And the whole the whole William gets drunk and kills the bite victim storyline really makes no sense unless there are two different bite victims. One that actually exists and one that was and it was killed by William when one was a robot. Um, yeah, and definitely people can rediscover theories that they didn't know about. That's totally a thing that happens because I feel like I've uh done that like once or twice when looking up a theory, and I try to credit whoever originally came up with the idea. If something like that's crossed my mind, like I'll try to look up certain. It's a little hard to, because it's hard to know what people refer to an idea as or how they interpret your concept. But I try to see if someone had done something before, if it feels like too obvious or a little like too intuitive, you know? It's like, oh, someone must have thought of that before. Um, I've mentioned this before. That part of what I'm not a big fan of, like dual process in particular, with the whole Cassidy victim stuff, is I'm not a fan of like. I don't like that it's now called, like, a lot of people call it dual process theory. Like, they invented the concept when a lot of the stuff in it is recycled stuff from like old Reddit posts and stuff. Like, I've read the posts that they are talking about in some cases. Um, so I guess it all depends on stuff. I really wish something just stopped and explained Ultimate Custom Night again in a way that's less debatable. Because I feel like Andrew's Fazbear Frights origins are maybe the worst way to expand upon something. Um, I think when there's a debate on the identity of a character, and if you introduce a character who has a different name than the one you're trying to help people come to the conclusion of, that's really confusing. And if it is meant to be an entirely new character that we didn't know before, I think dropping him randomly in a storyline and then explaining who he was in the storyline prior in basically no terms at all, other than I'm another kid killed by William, that's an incredibly poor taste way to explain a concept. I'm just kind of going with this run, honestly. This is neither particularly good or particularly bad. I mean, it works, so it'll get me to the Nether. Yeah, I considered the idea of William wearing Golden Freddy and talking to the bite victim that way in 2+4. The problem is that now none of them are acting right line, which implies he didn't just wear the suit. If just wearing the suit was the only thing that mattered, I feel like following it up that way doesn't make a ton of sense. Okay. Just gonna take a bit of time, so let me start cooking some iron. I'm not really sure what... I feel like you would still have to kill the dead kids, and then still have to keep wearing the suit, to keep talking to the bite victim. Which I felt like was a bit too much of a... I was aware of this concept, I just felt it was a little bit too much of a leap sentence structure and phrasing-wise. Honestly, 2+4 wasn't even meant to be the name of the theory. The name of the theory was meant to be absolute victim, but I kind of... 2+4 is a bit more succinct. It's not as weird and wacky as absolute victim. And also the joke behind why I wanted it to be called absolute victim kind of faded as I wrote it more. I mean, he doesn't have to be entering the crying child's memories. I don't... That's part of the other reason I stopped. It's he doesn't need to. It's plausible, but it's not necessary. Also, I don't know how he's seeing what he's seeing. I don't... Because no other time someone's worn Fredbear have they just suddenly started seeing past events. Really? That's not that's not a consistent mechanic with Fredbear. The bonus video is just kind of a general write-up of other things people talked about or thoughts I didn't work into the main video. It's not really a specific part 2. It's more a general addition. God Damn It Victim was another runner-up name, but then I thought people were going to be like, oh, it's God Victim 2! Which I didn't. I kind of got cold feet on that. I didn't want... I feel like sometimes with theory names... And this is what bothered me about Molten MCI Alter S. Is a lot of... What ended up happening was people who were diehard fans of Molten MCI were just like, well, it's just Molten MCI, but more complicated. And people who... And people who hated the theory just heard that it was a variant of Molten MCI, and were like, "Oh, it's dumb. I don't believe Molten MCI." And then they basically neither crowd humored the theory. So I've tried to avoid naming theories in a way that the name alone can give an impression that people will just ignore. 2 plus 4, while it's a distinct name, it's pretty clear, it's pretty specific, and I think is pretty unique in its identity for like what it's talking about. It kind of forces people to have to actually engage with the theory to know what it's really saying. Um, so um, so yeah, that was why I didn't go with God Damn It Victim. It was a funny name, but like I was a little worried because I worked really hard on that video and I really liked it. And I really felt like I was on to something with a lot of potential conceptually. And I didn't want it to be reduced again down to it's blank, but with blank. Because I feel like if I call it Goddamn Victim, people really would look at it. They would try to, in their own heads, fill in the gaps with God Victim arguments and stuff like that, which first, I'm not actually not particularly familiar with the rationale of God Victim in a lot of regards as a theory and interpretation. Well, here we are again. This a chunk of a mine shaft that has been cleaved out of reality? I guess so. Come on. Give me somewhere new to go. And Absolute Victim, the whole joke was I was riffing on the Absolute DC comics. With that name, and then the reason I wanted to riff on them with that name kind of decayed as the video's development went on. Like the pun I would, not even the pun, like the reference and the kind of gag I was making broke over time. So the whole premise of that name originally was, the whole idea of Absolute is that it's the same characters you're familiar with and their end kind of personalities and moralities are what you sort of imagine when you think like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. But how they get there is supposed to be incredibly different. Like that's the main bit, right? It's like it's these things, but not the way you exactly know them. It's like, yeah, Superman's still the heroic, peaceful savior with a very Boy Scout kind of style attitude, but he doesn't get there quite the same way, and the rationale in his mind is different because his origin's different. Like the reason he's like that is very different in Absolute Superman, and so on with Absolute Batman and every other theory. And the idea of Absolute, the original reference I was making, I'm like, it's kind of the way I explained it in the script for that iteration and era of the theory was it's like almost every theory in a way with the bite victim is true if this theory is correct. It's just interpreting different parts of a storyline different ways. Like they're all getting a part of the theory right, but the end result is very different. And I kind of just dropped that angle or like connection by the final cut pretty strongly. Like that reference wasn't really there at all anymore, and that premise wasn't really like present in the idea at all anymore. So that's kind of what I mean, where like the idea was just dropped. Holy shit. Once again, I kind of don't know what I even do with this many diamonds. I hear water. And this time, I think I'm going to play it a little less safe with the Nether Fortress. I think I overcorrected somewhat there that last run. But it also entirely depends on where I spawn and all that. Where should be right around, yeah. So yeah, the whole like absolute reference of like the everyone's kind of right and wrong, like that just dropped. Just didn't like make it through the final cuts. Still do fast portal, since it's just more convenient. This particular run, I'm very ill-equipped for the Nether trip, but I'm fine with that. This will be a real test of the survivability of the Nether. I built this too short. Will this even work? I don't have any flint. Can't be that hard to find, though. There it is. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Wow, okay, it really won't let you. Alright, I guess I'll do the... Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I feel like with the Bite Victim, if you're going to introduce a character like this, especially in the origin place of the entire series, I personally find the idea that he isn't more important to the narrative kind of silly. Like, he doesn't need to be the most important character in the storyline. I think there's a fine balance to walk where he isn't the character. But also isn't, like, pointless. I don't like really classic Shatter Victim stuff where it's like, oh, he's split across the 6 kids. For the rationale of he's just, like, the MacGuffin. That specific part of that theory I don't really like. I think if you're going to do something like that, there needs to be another element in play for all of this. Now, you could say, you need way more iron, you need more equipment, and I would say you're correct, I'm being dumb. Well, let's gamble on it. I am planning to make most of my progress in the Nether this run. That is my bet. And this is a good start for that idea. 2-2, 46, 10, portal. You can't make a warp boat? Does this satisfy you, you Mojang cretins, that I had to make the oak boat? I'm also going to try and get this element of the run done sooner. If I spawned in one of these biomes, I might as well try to finish off this chunk of the progression. I hate that the piglin children can get the gold and do nothing with it. Fortress anywhere? Fortress? Fortress? Okay. So, I think my plan with the fortress was correct last time. I think I could have done it faster, though, if I was a little gutsier. Come on, move. What the... There you go. Really doesn't seem like there's a fortress any direction. That's inconvenient. I can't mine that gold because that goober's there. I don't want to even get close to doing that. Like I said, this run kind of sucks, which is why I'm not being very careful with it. I mean, this would be one of the ultimate comeback runs if I did win this playthrough, so I want to keep pushing with it. I see a bastion there. Or that's not. That's Blackstone. Well, regardless, this is the way to progress. So I've decreed. There's another warp forest there. I was planning to go that way, but this way might be better. I was very scared. Wow, Blackstone. Just kind of turbo running through the nether. Well, there is a bastion. I'll be damned. That is a fortress over there. Let me see if I can... Do I even try to snag the gold here? Is it even worth it? I don't think it really is. Okay, okay. Burn damage just lasts so long in the nether. I think it's my biggest pet peeve with the nether. Like, is it not enough that I have to deal with burn damage more often, but also to make said burn damage, like, worse and harder to counter? That's a movie, Michael Afton. He's alright. I actually kind of liked him more than I think a lot of people did. My biggest gripe with movie Michael is I feel like he doesn't do enough in the plot to justify his unique existence yet. Like, we created a whole new character for him to kind of just be the setup to Charlie's freedom. And it feels like we're implying he's capable of more, or like has more theoretical importance, but I feel like we haven't shown it yet. I think his acting's good. I like the kind of concept they're going for. I will say I don't think it has anything to do with the game Michael Afton. Though I will be annoyed with more, oh, he's the accomplice theories for the time coming. Because it's going to happen. It always happens. I feel like people who wanted it to be the case are already going to be like, oh, it's proof. We were right the whole time. And I'm not going to argue it doesn't theoretically strengthen the argument. I think the biggest problem, though, is that's not really... It's not really the way Michael is written in stuff like the Survival Logbook. Or even his monologue in FNAF 2. Or FNAF... Or Sister Location Cast Night. FNAF 2 is the movie. The movie. I'm assuming Withered animatronics just being AI became a theory. I don't think I've seen many people actually seriously argue it, though. I think most people have the common sense to say this contradicts too much lore to be the case in the game continuity. And I personally wouldn't bet on a retcon coming from the movie. I don't like anything that assumes the retcon came from something that wasn't the main continuity. I feel like it's more logical to assume it's a continuity difference. I think in general the movie timeline seems to be based on like fan interpretations and theories. Like I think that's another way it's kind of a love letter to the interpretation of the fan base that I think Scott was kind of going for with the FNAF movies. It's like you could argue it's like Cassidy / Golden Freddy being the vengeful spirit ties into that some. I technically have enough for pants, I just realized. I don't like having my back to you guys. Get me up here. I can hear a wither skeleton too, which sucks. I think while I'm right to be afraid of wither skeletons, I might be pushing my fear of them a bit too much. Because this is the exact scenario where I think I don't need to be afraid of them. Come on. So they die 3 to 3 hits of a diamond sword. Which isn't nothing. But I think if I'm panicking, I'm kind of throwing the run in that regard. I think fear of these as enemies is plaguing my judgment and ability to get past ominous threats. Oh, the food situation is going to kill me, though. The Nether is so prone to just, like, chip damage. Is there a red? I need to start walking. I need to start walking. I need to start taking less damage. And I need more food. Yeah, there's some theories of mine where I'm a little sad this wasn't the one to cross 300k or whatever. I mean, the current video is only crossed a little. It's not at 300k, but you get my point. Well, it's near it. It's at 280 something. God damn it, the lag made me think I had another time for a hit in. Ugh, the lag's throwing me off. I hate to be the ooh, the lag's killing me guy, but in this case it kind of is. I think I go for near minimum on this one. Maybe 7. Next loop. What? That's so horse shit. See, this is exactly what I was hoping for in one of the prior runs for like the spawn rates and all that. 6, okay, one or two more, then I immediately book it back to spawn. I don't have the food to try more, and there's a red forest near spawn where I can get food. Like I said, I want 1 or 2 more extra. That'll do. 8 will do. That's certainly enough. I am curious what other unwithered we'll do on the 4+2 premise. Are you kidding me? I think I outpace the skeleton. It's an enemy, so I just need to walk down and then retrace my steps, basically. Nope. At no point do I really ever want to be below full health. Honestly, I would say I might just need to, like, leave the nether. And grinding ender pearls will be a pain without the nether. Okay, yeah, I went around this way. Oh! That was very bad. Not good. These might be my saving grace, honestly. Mushrooms. If I can find some red mushrooms, which aren't that rare in the nether. Might be my ticket out of here. Red Forest might be my saving grace. I can't believe this run is actually salvageable. I mean, this is why you play. Like, this is part of why I try not to disqualify runs. I mean, we're at 3. And we just got food again. I say I'm not pushing my luck at all this run with, whatchamacallits? With the Bastion. That feels like too likely of a death scenario. Obviously, I do not want that. So let's see. We're trying to get near 0. So that's just mainly I need to go that direction. I'm actually pretty I need to go practically straight this direction actually. Try to avoid digging if I can, save pickaxe durability, save saturation. Maybe also find more mushrooms to keep myself alive longer. This run is completely salvageable considering that we spawned in a ward forest. Thoughts on the toys being the Springlock suits? I think that's a movie idea, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if it was true in the games, but I would be mildly surprised, but I wouldn't be like, that can't happen in the games. There's not super strong. I mean, I guess we don't see the Springlock mechanisms as the main thing. Like, the Springlocks are a very specific aesthetic for, like, how they operate that we don't see in the toy animatronics in the games. I think that's my one complaint with that idea. Even the Muriko Springlocks have that same, like, not coil, but, like, a specific spikes around the torso in particular. Not even spikes, they're these kind of like, it's like this rib cage design. They have a more humanoid layout of parts and stuff, as if like to help settle in the idea. It's like, oh, this is a person's suit. And this time, I am not going to try and cheese the Enderman farm by, like, skipping steps. I don't think, I know that's what killed me last time. It's greed, it's the greed they speak of in the Bible. It's all about Minecraft. You didn't know that, but... It was all an analogy for Minecraft the whole time, every single part of it. That's what they don't tell you in Bible school. I definitely went to Bible school, you can trust me. Get away! I need my boat back. Thank you. Guys, please come back. Thank you. This is great drop rates, though. I was about to break that goal. I was looking around just to be sure. Yeah, and the Sprinter suits are retired prior to the missing kids for most people's concerned timelines. Come on. What? I think that was the one I was attacking. I need a minimum of, I would say, 13, assuming one breaks. Please don't shoot me. Super far away, gassed. Let me make sure I'm still making progress towards... Okay, I'm right around the portal. So I can now leave basically anytime I want. This is now entirely a game of the Enderman collection. Miracle this. Pickaxe and axe are still around. I really thought they would break by now. I will say this is also a way better warp forest than the last one. 6 halfway there, roughly. The last one was not very forgiving. Is there a thing with mushrooms in the Nether that aren't the base 2? Is there like another stew? Or do red mushrooms just do nothing? I'm trying to remember. I feel like that's one of those things that kind of happened when I wasn't really... I'm still not... I don't consider myself like a die-hard Minecraft fan. I'm just someone who grew up with it, has nostalgia, excited for Hytale and all that. 7. Ugh, there's an annoying possibility that this is like the run now. Like everything is clicking into place. The biggest thing that freaks me out about this is food. That I could be hit while I'm still regenerating. Okay, my gold stuff still has pretty good durability. I'm specifically checking here because I see the mushroom. Does this work? Does this... That also helps, even though it's kind of a... I didn't really want to do that interaction. I'm not really afraid of them killing me, but that was not something I wanted to do if I could avoid it. Okay. Let's now steer you into a safer spot. Thank you. That was worth it. So close. We're 3, maybe 4 off. I'm really glad the warp brush was added in. It's a nice, like, it's kind of skill-based adjustment to grinding into turtles. It's gutsy to do while there's gas around, but especially with gas being the snipers of the Minecraft world. There we go. Is that a different fortress from the one before, or is that the same one from a different angle? I feel like that has to be a different one, but if it is, that sucks that I missed it. Or if that isn't one. Whatever. It implies there was a better way to do this, maybe, but... that one died faster. I wonder if I just got more critical or something. I don't know. They should not add more hostile, more difficult enemies, even if they're just variants. Mainly because that would make this even harder. I mean, it's not a bad idea, actually, but, like, my point is, that would make my life harder. So even if it's a good thing for other people, I don't want it to happen. In other words, it's a summarize of politics for the past who knows how many years at this point. Maybe forever. Few more. I think 13, 14 will do. So why you don't give up runs, even if they suck. Ignore the run I gave up on earlier. That was for time, mainly. We have the portal right here, so I'm not Not really that worried. It's just, can I find the damn Enderman? I really wish these mushrooms did more. It feels like they don't. Is there any more of the tan beige mushrooms? Would appreciate those. Let me check. What can I craft? Jack shit. Yeah, I'm glad. Actually, I'm really glad you moved because that was not good. I agree that I don't think the Charlie Emily thing makes much sense if it's not her last name. It's one of those things like I can understand why you can have like points against it or think it's not the case just because it's an unusual. Last name. That was very scary. I knew I was too close to. That was kind of my own hubris. No. No, come on. I don't want to deal with the Hoglins right now, but I'm so low on health. And I have very little shield left. Can you guys not be so close to the fucking demon giant pigs? Why are you trying to shoot me? I don't... I'm not in your territory, man. You guys don't even understand what I'm doing in this dimension. You... Good. Oh. Back here. Near minimum. I mean, this is the minimum, but, you know. I think I'm gonna avoid those ones. Those are too deep into the forest. Kind of one of those, if it isn't their last name, I don't know what else it would be. And also, Henry, in some official material, has been called Henry Emily, which I guess could be a mistake. Or, like, just like a writer's false assumption based on, like, fan wiki stuff. But it's kind of a weird thing to be passed by. I think a lot of stuff in like, the official material. I'll kill this last one, I just gotta hear it, and it's right here. 13. Okay, I'll hope to get more in the overworld. But I'm content with that. That should be enough. Where's the... This is the only lava thing I see, but it's not one near the portal. 26, 40, 10. I'm not far... So it's over here. And I'll kill one more if it... Okay, here it is. Okay, this is not a bad run. We are in and out of the nether. As far as I'm concerned, that's a very good run, especially since I did this without pants. Which sounds very strange out of context. let me... Okay, I'm actually going to go into another real quick for one very simple reason. Very low risk scenario. Get a lot of wood real quick. Just like chop down some trees, maybe catch another enderman while I'm at it. This is what I actually should be doing, honestly, now that I think about it. Whenever I'm like waiting for endermen to spawn, collect like wood and materials. I just want extra like building blocks and resources, and this is a great way to do it. And I like having these blocks. But I also think they're not flammable like the normal versions are. Yeah, 30 should do. That's about 2 stacks, I think. Yeah, that will do. Alright, back to the portal. Well, I'll keep that. The other thing I want to make real quick while it's here is a larger gravel collection. Because now we're into the stocking up for the Ender Dragon phase. What I very clearly, definitively learned from the last attempt was however many arrows I thought were enough were never enough. Now, there's some certain ways I could theorize to work around that. But I'll get to that when I get to that. Okay. Do I not have a slot for flint? I already have a craft table, I don't need that. I won't really need the warped fungus, so I guess I'll leave that. I'll leave this down here because it's like, what am I going to use that for? I'm with bone meal. I really don't need bone. Bone meal might be good for food, actually. Now let's see if I can find better resources on my way out. I don't even remember what the surface of this world looked like. I mean, obviously I know what Minecraft's surface looks like, but I'm trying to remember, like, where was I? Because this isn't the world that got really lucky with the portal. Yeah, this is a traditional, like, ravine setting world. Ooh, spider's actually good if I want to get a new bow. And as annoying as skeletons are to fight, I don't have food. I need to remember that. I guess I mine iron. I say I guess because it's like I don't really... I don't particularly need iron, but also I kind of do. This is one of those things about hard mode, and I think it's not really a complaint, but it's a weird quirk of it all. Is, right, hard mode is supposed to be like a test of your skill. However, in this particular case, it feels like the test is almost testing my inability to be hit, testing my ability to avoid getting hit, and my ability to recover from the few hits I do take, rather than my ability to play particularly well. But I guess you can say those go hand in hand with how weird Minecraft's combat is. It'll be nice having a lot more food on the surface. And having pants. Okay. I mean, Diamond Sword and Pickaxe is a pretty good achievement for the run, I guess, overall. I mean, the real make or break is going to be beating the Ender Dragon. But, like, this was not a bad run, if I really consider the full weight of it. Did I have a lava pool on the surface? That's very funny, really think about it. Salmon spawn here, that's good. Horse spawn here, which for donkey. I don't have a bed in this world, do I? What's the... this? I just realized also let me... I'd be waiting all in-game night. Are you kidding me? Okay. I don't think... Can they... Okay, they're not that bad to hit. I'm more focused on... No, I don't have slots. I don't have the fucking inventory space. It's a very deceptively precarious situation. Because I'm stuck spending food to catch fish. So I can have food to catch fish. I just need to get more food than I spend in hunger. Oh, that's what that sound is. I'm like, what the hell is that noise? I kind of thought it was a drowned. I wasn't sure. Holy shit, those deal a lot. Fuck! That's it for me. I'm so pissed with this.